Hi, this is Maggie. In this video we're going to talk about drawing simple shapes onto a surface with the pygame.draw module. Listing 8.7 illustrates all of the pygame.draw functions. In this video we'll look at draw rect, draw circle, draw line, draw AA line, and the two draw lines functions. Let's look first at the syntax for these functions. Here is pygame.draw.rect. Notice that this is not a message that we're sending to a surface. Instead, we pass a surface in as the first parameter to the function. In this program, we've called the background surface BG so that the lines of code wouldn't be as long as if we'd called it background. So if you look at pygame.draw.rect, you can see the first parameter is our background surface BG. For all of the functions, pygame.draw, polygon, circle, etc., BG is the first parameter. Now let's look at draw rect. The first parameter is the surface to draw to, as we noted. Does the second parameter look familiar? A tuple with 3 elements, each between 0 and 255. If you guessed it's a color, you're correct. And this is red, 255, 0, 0. And then there are 2 more parameters, a tuple with 4 elements and an integer. That integer is the width of the line being used to draw the rectangle. Here it is 5. If we look at the documentation for pygame.draw.rect, we can see the default value is 0, which is a filled rectangle. Now the tuple of 4 elements, which is the next to last parameter, specifies the rectangle itself. A rectangle is a type of pygame objects with methods of its own. There are 2 ways to create a rectangle using the values for the size and coordinates of the rectangle. This is the pygame.rect documentation, and you can see here that we can define a rect as one tuple of left top width height, or 2 tuples. The first is left top and the second is width height. Either way, it's left top with height, not left top right bottom. So this rectangle in listing 8.7 is located at the coordinate 1010, and that's the left top coordinate, and then it is 100 pixels wide and 200 pixels high. When we run the program, you can see the red 5-pixel border rectangle with upper left of 1010 and width of 100, height of 200. Now let's look at draw circle. Once again, the first parameter is the surface onto which we are drawing, which in this case is BG. And you can probably guess that the next parameter is the color, because it is a tuple of 3 values ranging from 0 to 255. Our circle's color is 00, 255, or blue. The color values are always in the order red, green, blue. Now we have 3 more parameters. The first is the center of the circle as a tuple of 2 values, which are the XY coordinate. The circle's center will be at 240, 240, which is the middle of the background surface. The next parameter is 50. It's the radius of the circle. A circle is defined as all of the points that are radius distance from the center point. So the circle is drawn 50 pixels from 240 to 40. And the final parameter is the width of the line, which here is 10. As with the rectangle, the default value is 0, which is a filled circle. Any other value will be the width of the pen used to draw the circle. And when we run the program, you can see the blue circle in the center of the window. Now we will look at the two line drawing functions. Draw line and draw AA line. The AA line stands for anti-aliased line, which means a smoother looking line because it is blended into the background. The parameters for these two functions start out as you would expect. The first parameter is the surface on which to draw, and the second is the color. We are drawing both our line and our anti-aliased line as purple, 255, 0, 255, red, blue, and no green. The next two parameters are tuples, the starting XY coordinate and the ending XY coordinate. So the line is drawn from the starting coordinate to the ending coordinate. Now the final parameter for draw line is the pen width, as with the circle and rectangle. The default width is 1. A width of 0 wouldn't make sense because a filled line doesn't make sense. The AA line function also takes an int final parameter, but we're passing a boolean because it communicates a little better than an int. This last parameter is for blend. If you pass 0 or false, the pixels won't be blended with the existing pixels on the surface. The default non-zero or true value is for the pixels to be blended. When we run the program, you can see that the anti-aliased line, the lower line, is a little thicker looking than the non-anti-aliased line and perhaps a little smoother. There's no width option on the anti-aliased line. Now the last two functions that we're going to look at are draw lines and draw AA lines. Once again, the names refer to a non-anti-aliased line and an anti-aliased line. These functions draw a series of connected lines. Up above the drawing in listing 8.7, we define a list of tuples of 2 values each. These tuples are XY coordinates. These are the coordinates of the lines that will be drawn when we pass this list to draw lines or draw AA lines. For example, if we look at line points, we see the first tuple is 430. That is the starting coordinate. The next point is 350, 60, and so the first line will start at 430 and will end at 350, 60. The next coordinate is 490, so the next line will start where the last ended at 350, 60 and will end at 490. You get the idea. A line will be drawn between each pair of points in the list in order. So let's look at all of the parameters now. The first is the surface on which to draw, in this case BG, or our background surface. The next is the color, and you can see that both of these drawings are using black, or 0, 0, 0. Now the next parameter for each is a boolean for closed, which is whether a line should be drawn from the last point to the first point, closing the shape. We are passing in false to both functions, so there will be no line drawn from the last point back to the first. And then we pass in the list of points, and finally for draw line, the width of the pen, and for draw AA lines, the Boolean for blend. When we run the program, you can see these two almost complete diamonds in the upper right, which are drawn using draw lines and draw AA lines. I hope these are straightforward, but the best way to learn them is to experiment with them. Take listing 8.7, change the parameters to each function that we just covered, and predict the result before running the program. Then draw your own picture composed of circles, rectangles, and lines using these commands. Plan the picture out on graph paper first, and don't give up until what Pygame is drawing is exactly what you planned. When you can recreate your paper and pen plan with the pygame draw commands, you're ready to move on.